So you just pulled for Chizuru and you got her. Let's talk a little bit about her lore and then explore her kit afterward. I'm Artemis, welcome to the Chizuru Character Guide. This is Chizuru. She is a shaman maiden mercenary from Kaguya Pharmaceuticals. Upon sealing Kurokage, she's given an ultimatum.
When you fall, it will be through your own hand that the world meets its ruin.
Her ultimate goal is to annihilate Kurokage, but in the meantime, she leverages these mechanical arms as manufactured by Kaguya Pharmaceuticals. In exchange, she does missions for them. Let's now talk about her cards. Here's her basic cards. She has Moonslash and Spirit Flame's Ward. Moonslash gains a second hit after you hit a certain point in her potential tree. And for her typical DPS build, you'll be wanting to get rid of Spirit Flame's Ward first and foremost, since Moonslash can help her game plan that we'll be covering next. So Karmic Flames is her setup card. It sets up Cursed Shackles, which is whenever an ally uses an attack card other than a bind card on a target with Cursed Shackles state, she'll gain 1 Will-o-Wisp for each hit done to that target. Whenever 5 Will-o-Wisp are gained, create 1 Shadow of the Moon, and then reset the counter back to 0. Whenever bind cards are in her hand, they'll stack into 1 card. So for Shadow of the Moon, if the bind is 3 or higher, it'll turn into Shadow of the Moon Plus, where it gains a heal effect. When a bind card is used, it'll reset the stacks back to 0. So to keep it simple, you want to stack your Cursed Shackles on something, hit them a lot of times, you build up your Shadow of the Moon, you can hit them even more times, you start upgrading your Shadow of the Moon. With Shadow of the Moon Plus, you get a heal out of it, and you just repeat that cycle over and over again. That's her core game plan. Build her Will-o-Wisp resource to get Shadow of the Moon and start cooking. So now that you understand that Will-o-Wisp is the resource she wants to be building, let's move back to Karmic Flames and talk about her epiphanies for it. So for the sake of time for epiphanies, we won't be going into nitty-gritty of each one, we'll just cover the ones I like in order. I really like the 5th one because it helps when you're fighting a horde of enemies to constantly be able to have Cursed Shackles applied to something on screen. Otherwise, you could end up in a situation where you're having to wait for Karmic Flames to appear again, and you end up losing out on Will-o-Wisp stacks that way. And for a runner-up, I'd go with the first Epiphany because it's just a base level upgrade, right? It's just a damage amplification. Moving on to our next card, Tsukuyomi, 2 Will-o-Wisp for each hit of the next attack card of this unit used. So Tsukuyomi is really good with multi-hit cards. So if I play this card, I can set up my Moonslash to give me 4 stacks of Will-o-Wisp rather than just 2, and also that 4 can be built on any enemy. So for Tsukuyomi, my favorite Epiphany is for sure either the 3rd one or the 1st one. So for the 3rd one, that's how you end up with those like really insane like 11 hit, 15 hit. I think at one point I was able to get up to 25 hit Shadow of the Moon. Or the 1st one because it's just good convenience. This will be a really good target for Divine Epiphanies or Duplication, I would say. The 2nd and 4th one are kind of just whatever. Now, Bound at Dusk is an interesting card because at the start of turn you gain Inhibit. Inhibit disables being able to gain AP during your turn, but it also adds an extra hit to Shadow of the Moon and Shadow of the Moon Plus. This is interesting because you can make the decision to play a Mika-based team and you actually don't play this card intentionally, or you decide to play this card for the value of having cost reduction, to essentially cheat out cards. So like I mentioned before, we could actually ignore this section if you wanted to and just not play this card and actually remove it from your deck. That is an option. But the versions of Bound at Dusk that I've experimented with is the 3rd one. That can actually be a detriment because sometimes you want to do your combo in a specific order and that could potentially just ruin the ordering of the combo. So there's that one, but it also lets you like cheat out mana cost as well. But like I said, it's too volatile if you're trying to go for a combo deck, so just keep that in mind what you want your Chizuru to do, right? There's also the 1st one where it's just discounting things, and the 5th one that is also discounting things. I would say that the 2nd one is not really worth it though. The 4th one I'll bring up because I made a really goofy Tressa deck that was all about trying to have as many lead cards in her deck as much as possible. It's not really practical, but it was just funny to experiment with for that chaos run. Moving on to the next card, we have Oni Hunt, where it's just a multi-hit card and a damage amplification from on the base level. Pretty straightforward for a multi-attack game plan. So for Oni Hunt's epiphanies, I like the fourth one and I like the first one. So the fourth one creates 2 moon slashes. Because you upgraded your potential tree, remember that moon slashes will deal 2 hits each time, so you can build Will of Wisp 4 times. The Oni Hunt with the 4 times is essentially just doing that. And the additional damage amount to the next Shadow of the Moon that you use is also beneficial. The third one I feel is too conditional, so I've never actually picked it. And then for the fifth one, the fifth epiphany just seems like a safe bet. It's kind of just my fallback. Then finally you have Shadow Moon itself, where it's just damage, and then it turns into a multi-hit, and then you can just do that. We've talked about this card enough through other cards, so you can tell how all the other cards affect the heart of the game plan that is Shadow of the Moon, so I won't dig in any further into it. So now you understand how she works on a solo level, so now let's move on to people I think she works well with. But before that, consider subscribing. Anyways, so I think she works really well with Rei. She does generally what you would want. She can help buff her 1-cost cards, she can snack time for cycle, right? They're definitely a good duo together. Cassius works with everybody, Veronica, same story. Let's see, Tressa can work well because of just her cheap attack cards, right? A lot of a dagger spam that just equates to building Will of Wisp really quickly. And assuming you have Yuki, she can also work well together with her. And she can work with AP batteries as well, you'll just have to remove Bound at Dusk. Ultimately, what you want from her teammates is people that can either enable her game plan through buffs or through being able to attack often, or help Chizuru to attack often. There's also the gimmicks I mentioned before with like the lead Bound of Dusk, so maybe if there's ever a unit that comes out down the line that works around lead stuff, maybe she ends up being like a support style deck. For memory fragments, I'm running the Conqueror's Aspect set and the Executioner's Tool set to get that crit damage, and then on the Ideal, I'm running a crit chance piece, and for Desire, a void damage piece. Fairly straightforward stuff here. For an alternate setup, I would recommend a 2-2-2. Then you'd want to go for Blackwing, Executioners, and also the Agony damage set, First Corpse, if you're playing with Tressa. This is my first time doing this kind of format, so let me know down below if you have any feedback, or if you have any questions about Chizuru, and I'll do my best to help. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to see how my polls went for her in the first place, feel free to check out this video, and I'll catch you later. Enjoy the music.